Songs and Stories with Steve Roby. All about artists on Hawaii. Learn about the music and backstory on Songs and Stories.
And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Aloha and welcome to the Songs and Stories podcast, a weekly show that features interviews with the Big Island's top musicians. I'm honored to have as a guest today singer-songwriter Hāwane Rios. Welcome to Songs and Stories, Hāwane.
Oh, Belina Mekelo Hanui, aloha kako. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's great. I've been waiting to interview you. I saw you recently on the Hilo Palace Theater's Music from an Empty Palace. That's an incredible experience to play for no audience during these unusual times, I'm sure.
It was so surreal to be in there again. That is the first stage I ever played my song Warrior Rising on. And so to go back there and play that song in the palace, to really hold space for everyone during this time of quarantine and the pandemic, it was a really beautiful and healing experience to be in there on a stage that so many musicians have played on and so many people have come through.
I hope this thing gets over soon and we're able to have audiences in big theaters again. That'll be nice. Let's start at the beginning. What inspired you to become a musician?
I was raised singing and dancing and chanting. My mother is a kumuhula. She teaches our traditional dance. And so I have been raised with the stories of my ancestors through these mediums of expression and art. And when I was in college, I was in a second year Hawaiian language course, and I woke up one day with this urge to learn how to play the ukulele and to write my own music after hearing a beautiful love story of Mauna Kea with the goddess of Poliahu, Kukahau'ula, her lover. After hearing that mo'olelo, that story, I felt like I wanted to remember it. And so I wrote a song that sounded like their love to me. And this idea of passing on stories through mele, through songs, through chants, through dances is an ancient one. It lives within my bones and my cells and my heart. And so this to me is a continuation of this tradition to tell the stories of this time, what we are living through now, so that our next generation and the generation after that will know what we lived through and what we stood for. That's
so important. It's just beautiful, yeah. Who would you cite as a major influence for your style of music?
There's so many different artists that I look to. And so when I first started, I was singing just in Hawaiian language and singing traditional Hawaiian music. And so I looked up so much and still do to artists like Raitea Helm and Lorna Lim, Napua Gregg, Amy Hanaiali'i, female artists who have really paved the pathway for young artists like me to have examples of sound and style. And as I shifted into writing in English and in my language, in Hawaiian, I looked to artists like Maisie Rika, who is from Aotearoa, from New Zealand. She weaves a lot of English and Maori language together, which has always inspired me. I look to artists like India Irie, who talks about change and healing. She has shaped so much of who I am as not just an artist, but as a person, with the way that she conveys this kind of intention for unity through music. And then, of course, with like Hawaiian music for rising, music to stand for something. I really look up to artists like Iz and Sudden Rush. These artists that are telling the truth of what is happening in Hawaii and the kinds of issues that we face, and so a lot of local music in my younger years and now a lot of world music as well.
Well, tell me about your songwriting process. I guess you get some inspiration first and then the song comes. How does it work for you?
In this album, the kiaʻi Mauna Together We Rise, the way that it came to be was through my lived experiences. I am a kiaʻi. I'm a protector of my land. I'm standing for the protection of my mountain, Mauna Kea, from the building of a 30-meter telescope.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing this work for the past 10 years. And so every single march, every case, we've been petitioners in the contested case hearings, every single case, every testimony, every frontline stand has served as inspiration to me in so many different ways, because this is my life work. This is what I know my responsibility to my land and my people really is. And so I feel a responsibility to record the times. And so my writing process comes from them walking, in these marches. I will live an experience and come home and I get this feeling in my chest, right before I know I'm going to write a song. It's like I take a breath and I feel it come. I feel the need to pick up my guitar, and I need to pick up my ukulele. And recently I've been picking up whatever instrument and just pressing play on or record on my phone, my voice recorder, and we'll just start to play a melody, and I'll just start to hum. And sometimes I'm just singing any kind of words, like just whatever words are coming to me. And I'll know that it's that kind of melody. If it moves me, if I feel it in my soul, I will stop. And sometimes I'll write a whole song just freestyle. And then sometimes if I'm writing in my language, it takes me a little bit longer. And so I will sit and I will research. I'll go onto my computer. I'll look up different words. I'll look in different books, and I'll start to write ideas. And then I'll start to formulate the song to the melody that I created. And that's how I've been writing recently.
Wow, that's very detailed. It's funny how our phones have become much more than a phone. I hear that a lot from musicians, that they use it as something to document some ideas that come to them, say in the middle of the night or wherever. It's a good reference to go back to.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about one of the songs that we're going to feature on the show today. It's called It's Everything. Talk about the backstory for this song.
It's Everything was recorded in March of 2015, and it was written by a dear friend of mine, Chelsea Dixon, who wrote it originally as a poem and then created a melody for it and sang it to me and offered it to me to sing. I heard the song and I was inspired to write the Hawaiian language parts of this mele, which are giving honor to the mo'oku'au, the genealogy of Mauna Kea, and the goddesses, the water goddesses of the mountain. The song really is saying, it might just be a mountain to some people, but it really is everything to us. When we recorded it in March of 2015, that was the beginning of the frontline stand to protect Mauna Kea, and I was away. I was in Germany. And so I put all of my prayer and all of my love for the mountain into this recording, and I spent a lot of time crying because I wasn't home. I was far away. I was oceans away from my home. I wasn't going to be on the front line in the beginning of the front line with my fellow kiaʻi. And so this was my way of sending my aloha. And so you can hear it in the song. You can hear the longing to be home and the love for the mountain. And so it was a great honor to record this song on that particular night. And I offer it from my heart, an invitation for people to feel why we stand for Mauna Kea.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it with us. Let's give a listen now to It's Everything here on Songs and Stories.
Papa
And we're back on Songs and Stories. My guest today is Hāwane Rios, and she's telling me some of the stories behind the new album that has just come out called Together We Rise. Hāwane, you've traveled the world and shared the Hawaiian culture along with the situation on Mauna Kea with people you've come and encountered with. What are you asked the most about Hawaii, and do you feel a global connection with other nations out there?
Absolutely. You know, Hawaii is in the middle of this ocean, and in the middle of our ocean is the tallest mountain from sea level, Mauna Kea. And so what we forget sometimes is that our ocean connects us, and our lands are all connected above and beneath the sea. And so everything that we do on this earth this time around, it has an effect. We have mana, we have power to change and to shift what is happening in our world. And so to remember this connection that we all have from the tallest mountain to the deepest seas is so important, that we are not separate from one another. We are not separate from everything, that whatever happens onto the land happens onto us and happens to the next 7 generations. And so going around the world with advocacy work and solidarity work has been a sacred process for me, a sacred journey for both me and my mother, because we are talking about what it means to still see this land as family, aloha aina, aloha to the land that is like aloha for family, because aina comes from the word aiga, ohana, And so to link up with people who know this truth, Indigenous people from around the world who have not forgotten this, through all that we have been through and all that we have survived, we have not forgotten this because somebody always remembered and passed it down. Somebody never stopped speaking our languages. Somebody never stopped telling our stories. Somebody never stopped being proud of being Indigenous. And so that resilience connects to others around the world. And this kind of collective responsibility that we have to doing the best we can to show up, stand up, and speak up for what is happening on this earth right now. That is the legacy, our collective legacy to the next months to come. And so this work has been deeply, deeply ceremonial for me and for my family. And the connections that I have made through standing up for water have shaped my life and shaped who I am. And so the music is the way that I offer my gratitude. The music is the way that I offer my prayers onto lands that I am not from. And it's just a reminder to step gently onto the places that we are welcomed onto, and to remember that a whole people once lived there and their descendants are still there. And so to remember to walk in a good way.
Oh, wow. I love your music, but I also love to hear you speak as well.
Thank you.
What's the current situation on Mauna Kea right now?
Right now, we are still standing to protect Mauna Kea from the building of a 30-meter telescope that is funded by China, Japan, India, Caltech. And we are truly in this forward motion for the past 10 years to say no to any more telescopes on top of Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is the tallest mountain in all of the world. And the 30-meter telescope is being proposed on the northern plateau of the summit because there is no longer room on the summit for any more telescopes because there are 13 telescopes already existing and 22 structures on the mountain that all went up pretty silently and quietly in the past 30 years. But there's always been opposition to the building of these telescopes. So this is a call to remember that Mauna Kea is the keeper of the watershed of ancient water and feeds all of the waterways on Hawaii and the aquifer systems on this island. And so to ensure not just clean water, but to ensure that there is power and dignity returned to our people, that is what this movement is representing. You know, our people have long been disrespected in our own homelands, and we long have not been heard in our own homelands. And so when we said no, that should have been enough, but it wasn't enough. And so we went through 10 years of standing up in courtrooms and in marches and on the front line in 2014, 2015, and 2019 into 2020. Thousands of people around the world have stood in solidarity. And so to learn more about what is happening on Mauna Kea, please go to kahea.org and pu'uhuluhulu.com because this is an issue that is not just about Mauna Kea. It's about every single sacred place that Indigenous people want to protect and should have the right to protect.
I'll put links for the listeners in the show description for this podcast so they can link on those and go to those sites.
Thank you.
Okay. You mentioned your mother earlier, Pua Case, and you've collaborated with her on several songs. What was that experience like?
I was raised watching my mom create songs and create choreography for hula. She is one of the most incredibly talented and gifted people I have ever known. And it's because she writes from a place of love and of depth. And to watch her all of my life and then to have the honor of singing songs that come to her now is a part of ho'oilina and velo. It's a part of legacy that gives me a lot of inspiration to keep on making music. A lot of my writing style comes from my mother and comes from the way that she raised me singing and dancing and chanting. And so the way that she receives songs, because, you know, every time we write, we know that we're not writing alone. We know that we have a lot of help from our ancestors, from our experiences, from our own prayers, and from the prayers of our kupuna, from the ones that came before. And so when I hear and listen to what she writes and what she sings to me, I know that it comes from a long line of people that love to sing and love to remember stories this way. And so it's such a beautiful process to write and collaborate with my mother. I know that my children or my sister's children or anyone in our family will be held by these songs. And that makes me very proud.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautifully said. Well, let's talk about the new album, Together We Rise. How did that come together? And I also understand you're going to be releasing soon a 3D audio version that's kind of made for headphones. Tell me all about that.
Together, kiaʻi Mauna Together We Rise. This whole album took me 4 years to create in collaboration with Religion Records in Germany. I met the producer of this album, Matthias, and his wife Miriam on my mountain at Pu'uhuluhulu, the place where we pray. They came to give their offerings, and we had a connection there. I just knew that they would be in my life. I could feel it already. He wrote to me later on. He found out that I, make music, and told me that he wanted to offer his recording studio to me to record my album for free, because he knew of why I was writing music and how important it was to get this message out about Mauna Kea. So he offered me the space on his own time. And it is one of the most loving and beautiful gifts I've ever received, the most generous, to be able to record this album in this way. And so I went back and forth to Germany as much as I could, even though we were standing on front lines and we were going around the world with this advocacy work. We made time throughout the years to create this album. And then I created another relationship with friends of his, with Religion Records, who mixed this album and helped me put this album out. And this new technology is coming out of their studio, this 3D audio, which is really amazing, because instead of listening to everything in 2D and headphones, it's like you're listening in the middle of the song.
Wow.
Like you're sitting in the middle of the song and you're hearing it like circularly around your head. So for me, because these songs are so prayerful, and because they're so important to me, because they're talking about land and they're talking about the mountain I love and talking about protecting our food and our water. Because of that, I wanted to invite people into the middle of the intention of these mele, to sit in the prayer, to sit in the ceremony that it took, to sit in the truth that I'm trying to share with people about the importance of protecting the sacred. Like that is why this 3D experience is so important to me, because it's yet another invitation to deepen the revelation. That's what we say, Eli Kaumai, that comes from Antipua Kanahele, to deepen the revelation. And this is just the next level of that.
Does the listener need any special equipment, extra speakers, or a good set of headphones? Will that work?
Just a good set of headphones. I even listened to it with my regular iPhone headphones, and I still could feel it. But I suggest the headphones that cover the ears so that you can get the full experience.
Sounds like I can't wait for the 3D version to come out and just listen to the whole album straight through.
Yeah, I'm also really excited for it to come out and listen to it that way. And I'm really looking forward to sharing it. It's coming out this Thursday, August 27th, 2020, on all music platforms. And it'll be the first one coming out of Hawaii.
Nice. Well, we're going to play the title track, Together We Rise. But would you like to talk about the message in the song?
Together We Rise was also written in 2015, and it was written on the front line. It's a call to remember ho'okahi ka'umauma ho'okahi pu'uwai. When we stand linked arm in arm, we're standing as if we have one chest and one heart. And it's going to take us all. It's not just going to take Hawaiian people or a certain group of people. It's going to take every single one of us to do this work, living right now on this planet, to show up and stand up and speak up for all things that are calling for us to change and to be better. This song is a reminder of kapu aloha, this firm commitment to what is just and what is true, what is pono, to follow in the words of Hale Makua, who is an elder of mine. He says to love all you see with humility, to live all you feel with reverence, and to know all that you possess with a heart of discipline. This is something that I try to live by, and I work to live by. And so this is my offering of solidarity and of aloha from Hawaii, from Mauna Kea, to every single person that has ever said the name Mauna Kea, who has ever reposted, who has ever flown here to stand on the front lines, anyone who has ever stood in solidarity. This is my way of saying thank you, and I see you.
Let's listen to Together We Rise here on Songs and Stories.
Words of the wise echo in my soul, whispering, aloha is a firm commitment to pono. And we'll keep singing ho'okahi ka umauma. Together we rise. Together we rise. And we'll keep chanting. Kiaʻi, kiaʻi, Mauna. Kiaʻi, kiaʻi, Mauna. Ehu, ehu, ehu. Linked arm in arm, one in mind, light and heart. Remembering we're stronger united than apart. And we'll keep singing ho'okahi ka umauma. Ho'okahi pu'ai. Together we rise. Together we rise. And we'll keep chanting. Kiaʻi, kiaʻi, Mauna. Kiaʻi, kiaʻi, Mauna. Ehu, ehu, ehu. we rise.
And we're back on Songs and Stories with a very special guest today, Hāwane Rios. Hāwane, how has the pandemic affected any plans or music plans you had lined up?
Yes, the pandemic has shifted things for me and my music. I was planning on touring my album and starting in Europe and going to as many places as I possibly could. I wanted to take this album to as many mountains as I could. And now with the transition and the effects of the pandemic, I've shifted inward. You know, I'm sharing on Zoom, I'm sharing on live streams. I'm doing the best that I can to continue to share my music and also to continue to promote the album that is coming out soon. But yes, it has affected me, and I know many other people, many other musicians, because we no longer can play live. And so this is just, for me, it's like a time to go very deep inward and to do a lot of self-healing, a lot of self-work. I don't know if we'll ever live in a time like this again, where we go in and we look at ourselves, we look at our art, we look at the way that we're moving in this world, the way that we're walking in this world. We refine, we correct, we heal. And so I'm finding a lot of healing in writing my next album. And I'm very thankful for the time that I have to actually sit with my music and to sit with the story. I'm just doing the best that I can. I know that there's a lot of musicians out there that are struggling right now. And so I send you love, and I send you understanding and deep compassion, because I know that it's not easy. And, you know, for a lot of musicians, we're the last ones that people want to give funding to. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's hard for us to continue to do our work and to feel valued in our work when we don't get a lot of support.
Can you talk about any of the new material that you're working on?
I decided that I wanted to write again in my language and in the genre of Hawaiian music. That is my first love, and that is what gets me up in the morning. You know, Hawaiian music has always been that kind of medicine for me. And so I've been listening to the stories of my grandfather and sitting with him and seeing all the pictures that he has. He took so many pictures throughout his life, and it's on slides. And so we gather at the house and we just put the projector up and we just listen to him. And so because he's getting older and my grandparents are getting older, and as I get older, I realize how important it is to write about their lives and write about their stories and record the time that they lived in and what they lived through. And so it's been giving me a lot of joy to return to writing in my language. And it's also been really fun to, you know, explore what singing in falsetto is like, because I love to sing in falsetto. When I just started my career in music, that is what I was singing. I've been finding a lot of healing and a lot of happiness in writing this next project.
All right. Looking forward to that. Since this podcast reaches listeners from around the world, is there a general message you'd like to share about the Big Island?
Hawaii Mokupuni, Hawaii Island, is a beautiful and special and sacred place. And the kanaka maoli, the Hawaiian people, are living people with a living culture. My message is to be mindful and to be aware of when you come here and how you come here. And even if you think about moving here, to remember that we're still here and we still matter, and that our land is sacred and our land needs protecting. And should you ever come here and drink of our water and drink, the waters of Mauna Together and eat of this land, just by doing that, you now have responsibility. You now have responsibility to do the best you can for Hawaii, to walk in a good way here, to be respectful of our ways and our people, to remember that you are guests on our island, and that we do have a lot of aloha. We really do. And we also have dignity and standards as to how we treat our land and each other. Know that Hawaii, not just our island, but our islands face issues every single day. My mom says we have an issue for every minute of the day. We're constantly trying to protect our land and constantly trying to raise our voices to be heard here. Remember that it's not just a paradise to come to vacation. It's our ancestral home. It's where our children will be raised, where our next generations will be raised. So we have to do the best that we can to ensure clean water, good air for everyone that is visiting Hawaii. That is my message to everyone, with a lot of love, with a lot of grace in my heart, but also from a place of a lot of strength, because I know what it's like to be brown and to be queer and to be Hawaiian and to still feel like I'm not heard in my own homeland. And so anybody coming here, just make room for us too. Make room for us to be heard. Make room for us to be seen. And come in a good way to our culture. Come in a good way to our land. And this is the same standard that I hold for myself when I step on anyone else's land. And so what I ask is also what I live.
Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful. Where can folks find your music and follow you on social media?
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Hāwane Music. I'm Hāwane Rios on Facebook. You can look at HāwaneRios.com to order CDs. You can also get it online on all social media, on all media platforms. iTunes, Deezer, Amazon Music, Spotify, all have my music on there. And then you can also look me up on YouTube, Hāwane Rios.
Okay. I'll put links in the show description below, along with those other links that you mentioned earlier. Is there anything else we didn't cover or you'd like to add before we go?
I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me into this space. Thank you so much for giving, room for my music and for my heart to be shared within this time. I'm deeply grateful. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Mahalo for being a guest on Songs and Stories, Hāwane. Aloha.
Aloha nui.
Hey, what's good, everyone? This is Jazz Ka'iwi Ko'o, and you're listening to the Songs and Stories podcast. Hey, please follow me and subscribe to my new YouTube channel at Jazz Ka'iwi Ko'o, and also check out my new CD, Lo-Fi Grits, as well as other productions that I've done at jazztheproducer.com. As one Z. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Songs and Stories podcast. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. We'll see you next week on Songs and Stories. Aloha.